All right, Degens, today we have a very, very special episode, and today is about how to crush your calling when there's a new set, and we're going to be talking about the sealed. We are here with Lucas, and welcome, Lucas. How do you feel after winning the calling today?
I feel really good. I feel like a lot of work over the course of my years in Flesh and Blood has kind of paid off. It feels really nice to get a big win at a tournament like this, and yeah, I'm really happy with the result.
Nice. So today my goal is to be able to walk everyone through your thought process, how you crafted this deck, and for you to be able to kind of admire this beauty before you let it go.
Of course.
Okay. So, but before we do this, I just wanted to understand, like, walk us through your career in like trading card games. You would tell me, you've won a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament 5 years ago while you were 13. So, like, what has been going on in the last couple of years?
Yeah, so when I was 8 years old, I started playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And then, like you said, I won the Junior Division National Championship for that back in 2019. And then ever since 2021, I've been playing Flesh and Blood. I have obviously won a few Battle Hardens and PTA events here or there. I have a Nationals top 8, a Calling top 8, a few other good finishes. But this is my first big win at a Tier 3 or higher event. And yeah, obviously I'm a member of Team Fabled Runaways. Yeah.
And what's the first thing that happened when you told family that, hey, you know what, I just won this card that's like, like, what was their reaction?
Yeah, so I've actually been updating like all my family and friends all day about it. So they were pretty much all watching the stream, so they all saw it happen. The first thing I did after I got all the hugs out of the way and all the prizing logistics and everything, once I got in my car and I started leaving, the first thing I did was call my mom.
And what did she say?
And she was, I'm so proud of you. I'm so happy for you. It's about time. It's
And to be fair,
amazing.
has she ever doubted you? Has she always said, like, son, you need to get, you need this distracting you from school, from like, how has it been like? Yeah.
Not really, no. My family's always been very supportive.
That's amazing.
As a kid, it was just kind of a hobby, and then once I started actually making money doing it, they kind of just saw that as a bonus to a hobby. So, I mean, they've always been super supportive of everything, and just letting me do me. So I can't thank them enough, and they've been amazing with all this.
Nice. Okay, so quick one. If you guys want to be able to crush the up, oh wait, oops. If you guys want to be able to crush the upcoming pre-release, this is the video to watch because we're going to find out behind the scenes exactly how Lucas did it. So as I was looking through these cards, okay, first of all, I actually thought there was nothing really busted about this pool. So this is where, a lot of people say, oh, sealed is like 80% luck, it depends on your pool. But when you look at this pool, it really doesn't feel like there's anything broken. There's no broken M's. Okay, anyway, why don't you walk us through what you think about your pool and your strategy behind it. Let's begin with the pool first, the card selection.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously the first thing you'll notice, there's no Bomb Majestics. Obviously I have this Majestic right here, Machinations of Domination. It's okay. I played it once or twice. It was an okay finisher, but really it's mostly just there as a blue 3-block non-attack action. I don't have any Arcane Seeds or anything like that. But I do have the full suite of Runeblade and Earth Equipment, which are a huge deal in Sealed, I think. In Sealed, it's pretty easy to decompose early, especially with a pool like this. And these two equipments are insane value to start with.
Okay, so let's begin with, for somebody that's thinking about playing the pre-release or the upcoming event in Sydney, what determines the hero? Like, how important is the full equipment suite?
Yeah, so I think if you're going to play an Earth Hero, the two biggest things, like I mentioned, are these Earth Equipments.
Yep, these two, yep.
And then having your very good decompose cards. That's one really big strength of my pool is I have 2 red Cadaverous Tilling, which is the best decompose card, as well as a red Summer's Fall, which is a rare and is also incredibly powerful, and a yellow Rootbound Carapace, which even in yellow is an incredibly powerful decompose card, as it lets you do it on your opponent's turn without using an action point. So
do you only have 4 decompose in your entire deck?
These are my only red and yellow ones that I was playing. I do have some blue decompose cards here as well, just a bit more consistency. I think around 5 to 6 is what you're looking for, especially if they're good solid ones.
Okay, and so typically you're looking to play this 4, and then this would be like a backup.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, nice. And so what else do we need to know about this pool or this deck?
So I ended up playing Florian over Verdance. You'll notice that I have the 2 Runeblade equipments. These are incredibly powerful and definitely a reason to be Florian, as well as some particularly powerful cards over here. Splintering Deadwood in particular is very powerful. Hit the high notes is very strong with the Runeblade chest. You can play it off of one card potentially. And then I also just have a couple other good solid Runeblade cards. Malefic Incantation. Yellow is really powerful with Florian's hero ability. Sigil of Deadwood over in blue is a really great late game finisher. And I just think Florian's hero and weapon combination is really powerful if you have the auras to turn them on.
So you would play this over a typical blue block 3?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is just an incredibly powerful finisher, especially in fatigue games. These sigil style effects are very powerful as they turn your weapon on once when you play them, and then again when they trigger when they get destroyed.
Okay, see, this is the difference here. I had this card, I didn't even play it, and okay.
It's very good. It's also, you can kind of struggle to use your whole hand in this format sometimes, and having ways like these sigils to use your whole hand can be a pretty big deal, especially with Florian turned on. It's basically 0 for 2 unblockable damage with Go Again, which is pretty good.
And as Florian, are you typically looking to go first or second against what type of matchups?
I have chosen to go first in every game of Rosetta Limited I've played so far.
Wow.
I think there's a lot of advantages going first, and I think it's kind of hard to use your hand going second. Most of the time you end up just throwing a 6 or 7 power attack anyway, just gets blocked out, and then they throw something back at you, and they may as well have gone second anyway, but they don't have the ability to graveyard fill if you want to filter your hand or play something like a sigil or an incantation.
So if you are going first and you're going against another, let's say, Earth hero, which is typically the case, will you swing if you a 3 for 7, for example, just to start that fatigue game?
So I think it depends on your deck construction. A deck like this, I have these 2 red Strength of 4 Seasons, I have this red Autumn's Touch, this Fertile Ground, as well as this Arcane Polarity. So I have some good life gain, and I have some really high value attacks. So I think my deck is actually pretty good at fatiguing the mirror a lot of the time. So if I have something like a red Autumn's Touch in my opening hand, a lot of the time I will be sending that turn 0. I would rarely do something like just swing my weapon. Even if I think I'm going to fatigue them, letting them graveyard fill 1 to 2 cards can be really powerful and accelerate and decompose, and I usually don't want to allow that.
So what if you had on turn 0 an aura, and you played the aura, would you swing the weapon for 4 then?
It depends on the matchup. If it's an Earth matchup in Sealed, I usually would not. If it's a Lightning hero, I usually would, as you are going to be fatiguing them a lot of the time.
I see. And when you played against those Earth games this weekend, how often did it go to fatigue for you?
I would say about half of my games.
Oh, only half?
I think that a lot of it depends on how you play it.
Okay.
I think as either player, it's pretty easy to basically like make the game not go to fatigue. You can just be very aggressive and take a lot of damage. That's usually not the right line. Usually you want to be somewhere in the middle. But I think, yeah, like I said, around half of my games, a lot of my games end with a few cards left and somebody just gets with a little arcade damage through, or they end up running out of cards or whatever it is. But a lot of this format is about those end games that you're setting up, whether that's fatigue or just somebody dying through arcade.
And what are your thoughts on this set now that you've seen, like, maybe 75 to 80% of the, people playing Seal are all Earth heroes, right? Like, do you feel it's a good thing, it's not a good thing? Like, did you have fun? Like, what are your thoughts?
I think that the Sealed format, the hero power levels are obviously quite unbalanced. The Earth heroes are definitely stronger than the Lightning heroes on average in Sealed, but I think the game quality is really good. I think they're very interesting, and I think that for the most part, there are pools that can support Aurora, and there are a few pools that maybe can support Nocilio as well. I think it's diverse enough to keep it interesting, and the gameplay is super good, and I really like that about this format.
Nice. I agree. I was initially very confused, and then I started to get the hang of it. So I want to talk about draft next and your experience there. But before we go to draft, is there anything about Sealed that you think the audience should know if they want to be able to prepare for the upcoming pre-release or the upcoming Calling in Sydney event? Like, what should a person know about Sealed, that process, before we move on to draft?
I think the biggest thing that I would try to get comfortable with is not just pitch stacking. You don't have to know every single card in your pitch stack exactly and know all your opponents, but just generally be aware of what's going on in second cycle. Try to, if you can afford to, pitch some of these powerful red cards to second cycle, because if your opponent has a lot of blues and you have a lot of red second cycle, even if you had some awkward starts early, it's going to come back and it's going to be really powerful. So just kind of be cognizant of what's going on. If your opponent pitches something very powerful like an Arcane Polarity or a Fertile Ground, you want to know that your Arcane push might not get there. If your opponent pitches something like a Yellow Malefic Incantation, know that you might want to try to get the game over before that can get that 4 arcane damage with Florian through.
Are you somebody that can actually remember your pitch stack?
Yes,
Oh,
you
you
can
can?
actually, if you watch the stream, I have a Celio mirror. I believe it's the second round of draft on day 2, where I actually pitched stacked a pretty sweet turn, and you can go back and watch that, but it's pretty sweet.
You know, like for somebody like me that has got a memory of a goldfish, does that mean that I'll never be able to reach, that kind of level if I don't have that memory?
I don't think that's true. I think knowing the exact pitch stack is relevant in Ocelio and draft a lot of the time, but otherwise, like I said, it's just knowing some key cards are gonna come around. You don't always have to know exactly where they are. Just if your opponent has life gain, if your opponent has arcane damage, if your opponent has some really big powerful attacks, just kind of know what's going on.
Right. Can you remember roughly in the top? Oh, wait, that was draft. So yeah, the breakdown, if I remember correctly, for day 2, that was like 5% of Celio, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So anything else about Seal before we move on to draft?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay. So let's talk about draft next. So once you started draft, what was your thought process then? Like, because that would be a different deck, right? Like, what was it like?
Yeah, so actually, I had the strategy going into the first draft at least, where I knew the
Everybody's
pod
gonna
one
play-
was 8
yeah.
Florians in Seal, and so I was
Yep.
hoping that they might have some bias towards the Earth
Yep.
Heroes, and then I ended up being the only Ocelio in my pod.
Whoa.
I
How did
felt,
that work out?
I went 2-1. My loss was to Michael Hamilton on stream, and I'm pretty sure I just punted that game away. I had just misremembered my pitch deck by 1 card, and that punished me. But I think the Lightning Heroes in Seal are pretty good, mostly just because the Earth Heroes are worse. Decompose, like I was saying, is very important, and it's really hard to get in Seal. I drafted in draft, excuse me. I drafted Florian 2 times, and I drafted a total of 2 Decompose cards.
Wow. Yeah, because I can imagine everybody's trying to play the hero that they're familiar with.
Exactly.
So in your pod, how many Auroras were there then?
In the top 8 pod or the first draft pod?
The first draft first.
In the first draft pod, I think it was 1 Ocelio, 2 Aurora, and then 3 Florian, 2 Verdant, something like that.
Okay. And then in the top 8?
In the top 8, it was...
So did you have the same mindset going into top 8? Like, you know
going
what?
into top 8, I think generally a good draft strategy is just to take the elemental cards. The Lightning and the Earth cards are the most powerful cards in the set, and so just whichever of those elements gets past 2 more, I would
Yep.
try and go
So
into
you
that.
were open. So did you
Very
stay open for like how long?
Yeah, in top 8, I went in on my hero a little bit quicker than I did in some of the earlier drafts. I got past some pretty solid Florian cards I thought pretty early, so I was pretty happy to be Florian. But I do think you can stay open for quite a while. Another thing that's nice about this set is you can say, I'm going to be Earth, or I'm going to be Lightning, or I'm going to be Wizard, or I'm going to be Runeblade, and then figure out your other half later, maybe even in pack 2 sometimes.
Okay, very nice. Anything else for the person that's preparing for the sealed event, this pre-release?
No, I think mainly, like I said, know what threats your opponent has, know what threats you have left. Just try to play good, solid Flesh and Blood. This format feels like it has a lot of really cool interactions and everything, but ultimately, it's still just a value game, right?
Yeah.
Just play the good numbers, and you're going to do fine.
One last thing. So regarding, your prizes and stuff like that, do you feel you have emotional attachments, as you win these type of prizes and stuff?
I have less of an emotional attachment to the balance, but that trophy is definitely staying with
Oh,
me
yeah.
forever. That's not going anywhere.
Yeah, of course, and definitely. So well deserved. Well, congratulations once again, man. So happy for you.